Welcome to the meeting number 17 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Government Operations and Estimates. Today we'll be continuing our study on the National Shipbuilding Strategy. We'll also discuss committee business during the last 60 minutes of the meeting. Today's meeting is taking place, as you know, in a hybrid format, pursuant to House Order number of November 25th, 2021. Members are attending in person in the room and remotely using the Zoom application. Regarding the speaking list, the committee clerk and I will do our best to maintain a consolidated order of speaking for all members, whether participating virtually or in person. I would like to take this opportunity to remind all participants that at this meeting that taking screenshots or photos of your screen is not permitted. Given the ongoing pandemic situation and in light of the recommendations from public health authorities, as well as the directive of the Board of Internal Economy on October 19, 2021. To remain healthy and safe, the following is recommended for all those attending the meeting in person. Anyone with symptoms should participate by Zoom and not attend the meeting in person. Everyone must maintain a 2-meter physical distancing, whether seated or standing. Everyone must wear a non-medical mask when circulating in the room. It is recommended in the strongest possible terms that members wear their mask at all times, including when seated. Non-medical masks, which provide better clarity over cloth masks, are available in the room. Everyone present must maintain proper hand hygiene by using the hand sanitizer that you may have seen at the entrance when you came in. Committee rooms are cleaned before and after each meeting, and we thank the staff for doing that. To maintain this, everyone is encouraged to clean the surfaces such as your desks, your chairs, your microphones with the provided disinfectant wipes when vacating or taking a seat. As the chair, I will be enforcing these measures for the duration of the meeting, and I thank members in advance for your cooperation. Now, with that, I would like to welcome our witnesses. We are going to hear from Mr. Fulfaro and Mr. Padulo. And with that, I invite Mr. Fulfaro, who is with us from Italy. And so greetings and welcome. And Mr. Fulfaro, if you would have your opening statements, please.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thank you a lot. I'm Mr. Fulfar. I'm really happy. It's an honor also. It will be my pleasure to be with you today representing Fincantieri. You know, Fincantieri is one of the most important shipyard group in the world. We are really honored to be here today for discussing with you about our capabilities. We are also open and ready to answer to any type of questions you may have regarding the future programs. If you agree, we can have a brief overview of our company, or we can open the discussion directly through your questions. It's up to you.
Thank you, Mr. Fulfaro. If you had a 2 or 3 minute presentation that you would like to make to the committee, that would be appreciated. We obviously time restraints and getting those questions would be helpful, but if you quickly have a presentation, that would be appreciated.
Sure, it's my pleasure and the honor to introduce Fincantieri. Fincantieri is, as I said, one of the most important shipyard group in the world, with a background of over 230 years of history, more than 7,000 ships built. Is one of the largest shipyard group, not only involved in the military field, but also in cruise, offshore, new technologies. And we are also having important structures and important capabilities going over the shipyard group, including infrastructures, cybersecurity capabilities, new technologies, and advanced capability also for service support. We are having about 20,000 employees, and we create around 90,000 all over the world. Our capability is not only related to Italy, but as you know, we are spread in 4 different continents, activating different international important programs. In the portfolio of Fincantieri, we are having each type of naval vessels or submarines, but also cruise, also offshore. even mega yacht, so we can have a sort of cross-fertilization from different fields and different age of technologies in order to act as a global player. We were active also in Canada in different important activities with important also subsidiaries, and we are we are aiming to act as an important strategic partner for this country. For this reason, Fincantieri is really interested on discussing about the future programs of the combatant ships, starting from what we proposed in the past, the multi-mission frigates, the FREMM multi-mission frigates. We are also able to discuss with you about the different concern, different questions or points you may raise it up in order just to clarify exactly what could be our proposal and what is our understanding in order to have a strategic approach with Canada.
Well, Faro, I appreciate that. And just so that you are aware, we did receive your brief that you presented to us, and that is being distributed to the committee members, so they do have that in advance. Thank you. We'll now go to Mr. Padulo, and greetings, and thank you. You have a couple of minutes, please.
Thank you very much. Bonjour, and good afternoon, everybody. I would like to begin by thanking the chairman and members of the committee for allowing me to speak here today. My name is Sean Padulo, and I'm the president of Heddle Shipyards, which is the largest Canadian ship repair and construction company on the Great Lakes. I'm proud to say that we are 100% Canadian-owned. The company was founded in 1987, and today we own and operate 3 of the largest shipyard facilities in Canada and fluctuate between 150 and 400 people. This is due to the seasonal boom and bust cycles. Since 2012, we have performed over 70 projects for the Canadian Coast Guard, totaling over $80 million, and we are currently on schedule to complete the CCGS Edmundson Vessel Life Extension Project at our shipyard in Port Weller. If we stay on course, it will be the first Vessel Life Extension, VLE for short, in the history of the Canadian Coast Guard that has been completed on time. I just want to repeat that. If we complete the Edmundson, it'll be the first time in the history of the Canadian Coast Guard that a VLE is being completed on time. Given the delays in building new ships, the VLE program is incredibly important because it will ensure that the Coast Guard's current fleet remains operational. As a result, the government has allocated $2.1 billion for the upcoming VLE2 program. In terms of our business activities, we offer a full gamut of vessel life cycle services, which include construction, repair and maintenance overhauls, and recycling. Despite our success, we are still hampered by the inconsistency of work and the boom and bust cycles that inconsistency creates. The worst part of my job is overseeing layoffs on a seasonal basis because of what it means for my people, their families, and retaining hard-won skills, experience, and knowledge. We are here today to discuss the National Shipbuilding Strategy, the NSS for short. For me and all of my people, the NSS represents hope. It is potentially the solution to the boom and bust cycles that have crippled shipyards in Ontario for generations. At its core, the NSS is an important industrial and defense policy that can unite Canada and Canadians while bringing a vitally important capability back to our country. There have been challenges, to be sure, but the challenges were inevitable in order to accomplish the enormous task of rebuilding an industry. I'm incredibly proud of the large ships that are being delivered on the East Coast by Irving, the West Coast by Seaspan, and in Quebec by Davie. It is important that all 3 regions are active in the NSS because our country needs the capacity and more. The motto of Canada is Amare Jusque ad Mare, from sea to sea. Canada is a maritime nation, whether we like it or not, and we can't ignore that fact. Given current geopolitical events around the world, the NSS is more important than ever. I've heard previous witnesses talk about the geostrategic importance of the NSS in terms of defense and sovereignty, but I would also like to raise awareness of its importance for economic security. The merchant fleet operating on the St. Lawrence Seaway moved 231 million tons of cargo in 2018. That's over $1 billion in value. Prior to Heddle reopening the Thunder Bay Shipyard and Port Weller dry docks in 2016 and 2017 respectively, many of those merchant ships were dry docking in the United States. Those ships are now being repaired and maintained in Canada at our shipyards. The government work made available through the NSS is contributing to the revitalization of our shipyards and is therefore important to the commercial sector, which is vitally important to our nation's economy. Ultimately, the NSS is a bipartisan issue. developed and altered by both conservative and liberal governments, and it should be recognized for its significance as one of the most important industrial, defense, and economic policies in the history of our country. Although there have been many successes in the NSS, especially recently, there is room for improvement. I've heard repeatedly in previous committee meetings that there's not enough capacity in Canada to deliver ships on time and on budget, and that delays are the main driver of the cost overruns. Ontario shipyards have the largest untapped capacity in Canada. Heddle's 6 dry docks constitute over 30% of the dry dock capacity in Canada, and yet in 2020 and 2021, our average dry dock utilization was less than 40%. At peak employment, our facilities had 4,200 people, and today we have less than 200. Ontario has the largest manufacturing capacity in Canada, and we have 2 shipyards based in the industrial core of the province. We are currently building a ferry for the Ministry of Transportation Ontario, and the methodology we have adopted relies heavily on our Southern Ontario supply chain, as well as suppliers all across Canada. Heddle and Ontario are here to support our country. We have a solution for this committee to consider, but most importantly, though, our message to the committee is that Ontario should be included in the NSS in a meaningful way. Much of the National Shipbuilding Strategy's benefits to Ontario have actually sailed through corporate boardrooms to real jobs in other jurisdictions. Our solution is that Heddle Shipyards becomes a strategic partner for Canada to execute the VLE2 program and construct vessels less than 1,000 gross registered tons. By partnering with Heddle, Canada will bring Ontario's industrial complex and manufacturing capacity to bear on the NSS. The partnership will provide a continuity of work for Heddle and Ontario, which will eliminate the boom and bust cycles that have allowed Heddle to continue to be into a supplier that Canada can have to deliver projects on time and on budget. In closing, I would like to thank the committee for allowing me to speak here today. It's been an honor and a privilege. Thank you.
Thank you to both of you for your presentations. And with that, we will now go into questions and appreciate we are within a time frame, but we will try and stay as strict as we can. So we're going to start with Mr. Paul Hughes for 6 minutes.
Merci, Monsieur.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for coming to talk to us. My first question goes to Mr. Fafaro. You asked the government to build 15 frame frigates at a fixed cost of 30 billion. So you determined that 15 frigates would cost 30 billion and there will be no extras. And this will be constructed by Irving. Can you explain to us how you are able to deal with the government, telling the government that you will be able to deal with them with that fixed cost, whereas with other contracts, the prices keep exploding? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. The point is that we feel also through our international experience what we are gaining in different important programs we are having all over the world. Let's say Italy, but also US, but also Indonesia, Egypt, and other important countries in which we are offering the multi-mission frame. Is that the experience you are gaining through either a transfer of technology, through the capability to being as a global player, acting as a global player since the emission profile analysis up to the end of the life, is to manage the program starting as a prime contractor and acting since the beginning, trying to clarify all the points and the terms and conditions, including the price. When we generally present the proposal in the international market for a program like FREM, we are considering that it is a very complex ship where we need just to assist the end user since the requirements analysis up through the different process of this program. And it's very important to fix since the beginning in a clear way all the terms and conditions. One of the key point we consider as a basic point is having a fixed price. The fixed price is a sort of clarification in the matter, is a way through which we can define the scope of work in a clear way since the beginning, we can define the time plan since the beginning, we can define the quality of the product since the beginning, in order just to have a sort of fixed way that is a fixed price. And this is the best practice in order to act in the proper way. This does not mean that we are not flexible enough in order just to modify, to have amendment, to change the prices during the course of the program. But the fixed price is one of the key issues in order to maintain the optimal solution in the best way. Considering the value we are proposing regarding the fixed price for the frame, we are, let me say, confident about this. We are talking about a product that is a well-proven product. We are talking about a product that is under our complete control, acting generally as a prime contractor in the different international programs. And so we can manage in the proper way everything in order just to reduce and optimize the price. So when we present...
Thank you. I'm sorry, I have to interrupt you. We have limited time. I understand you very well. But now, considering your proposal, which was very interesting from a financial point of view for the government, your proposal was refused. Could you tell us why it was denied? I don't know if it was because of the price. Maybe there were other reasons surrounding the refusal. Do you want to tell us about that?
No, we cannot say it was refused. There was a tender, you know the story. We were out from the tender because the condition, the terms and conditions of the tender, the scope of work was unclear. There were many points that was not fixed in the right way. So we proposed an unsolicited way that we consider was the best way in order to reduce the risk of the program, managing quality and in time the ship. We proposed also a fixed price. We also were very clear regarding the capability of Fincantieri to make a transfer of technology and also to have a local supply chain, a complete local supply chain, because in that unsolicited proposal, we were also very clear and detailed regarding the list of suppliers, but it was not refused, it was not considered. It is different from our point of view. The reason why it was not considered is not cannot be addressed to Fincantieri. You have to ask in another way.
Okay.
Last question. In October 2016, you warned the minister at the time, Ms. Foote, that the frigate procurement was had deficiencies, and you sent a detailed list of the reasons for which the procurement process was deficient.
That's correct. We wrote a letter saying in detail the reason why we felt it was not the proper way. And if you may go through that letter, you see today that we were right. I mean, when we say that there is an high risk, when you consider not in a proper way the scope of work between the bidder and the selected shipyard, we saw through our experience the reality, because of course this was really a big problem. The first startup of a very complex international program is to fix the role, the responsibilities, and the scope of work. And first of all, you need just to define in a clear way all the end of user requirements. This is very important. So in the letter, we wrote clearly our concern regarding the program. We wrote the high level of risk in the scope of work. We wrote the problem regarding the IP, the intellectual property, and the management of this important issue in the different phases of the program. It was very unclear also the different phases of the program and the responsibility inside each of these phases. And we were also very clear regarding the opportunity to have a fixed price instead of having the risk to discuss with the result to have a higher price year by year. So whatever we brought was clearly what we saw in the following years.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Falfaro.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Chair, I would like the witness to send us that letter.
Can we receive the letter from the witness, please?
From
His letter, who been sent to the minister.
I'm sorry, Okay, thank you. Okay, I now understand. Mr. Falfaro, if it's possible, if you can submit that letter to the committee, if you would send that to the clerk, that would be appreciated, and he will distribute it to, if that's available. Thank you. We'll now go to Mr. Johari for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'd like to thank all the witnesses. I'll be splitting my time with the MP Thompson, but my only question is going to go to Mr. Fulfaro. You indicated that there was a fixed cost proposal submitted for an off-the-shelf 15 frigate based on the FREM design. And you indicated that you submitted that as an unsolicited bid, and you also know that we also know that it was rejected due to the misalignment with the official procurement process, Canadian official procurement process. As you know, PSPC highly values its rigorous procurement process. So can you comment on why you felt that the procurement process is not need to be followed, and you submitted an unsolicited proposal?
As I said before, we wrote a letter regarding this. In this letter, we wrote which were the main issues and the area that were not clear or unclear, as you prefer, regarding this first level of bid. Also considering our experience again in the international market, also considering our experience on negotiating such type of program, very complex program with different end users. We wrote in this letter that was an unclear process for the transfer of technology in the different phases. And for us, as you know, the transfer of technology is one of the key issues in order to allow the local capabilities and manage such complex program. And this was unclear in the terms and condition. There was a problem related to the risk in the share of work, because it was not clear the role of the bidders, considering the leading role of the shipyard. This was another important point. The other important point was related to the fact that it was not clear also the management of the IP, the intellectual property. We are not against, in principle, all over these issues, but there were a sort of unclear position that was a risk for this program. But not only for Fincantieri. I mean, in the letter we wrote clearly, there was a sort of sentence we wrote that I can read you in this letter. We wrote, in our opinion, the contract structure proposed in the bidders' prime contractorship and in RFP, request for proposal, does not serve well any of the parties, the prime contractor, the bidders, the Canadian authorities, and we exposed the details.
Thank you. So let me get a clarifying statement in less than 10 seconds. So you highlight a number of issues, whether it was project management, whether it's scope, whether it's IP, whether it's that, and yet you submitted a fixed price for an off-the-shelf for $30 billion. I have a problem reconciling. I come from management consulting. I've done a lot of fixed bidding for the solutions, and if the scope is not clear and all of those things, I won't submit a fixed bid. So why did you submit a fixed bid? Thank you.
First of all, the fixed price we submitted was not $30 billion. I don't know the data you are using. This was our proposal. What I can say in the market capability of Fincantieri is we never proposed in the international market a frigate with 2, 3, 4, 5 billion per ship. So I don't know how you can say that we propose a 30 billion proposal, unsolicited proposal. That was not part of our, I repeat again, the value in the market of the FREM is not 2, 3, 4, 5 billion, as I heard some time to time. This is not our market value.
Thank you.
You
Thank
check.
you. Thank you. Rest of my time I yield to Ms. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and to Mr. Padulo, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Seaspan and Heddle Shipyard signed an agreement that the latter would construct modules for the polar icebreaker. The project's currently in the design phase, I believe. Would you, when do you expect to begin construction and the polar icebreaker component in your facilities?
At the moment, I would say it's too soon to tell. As you mentioned, it's still in the design phase. We've had multiple meetings with C-SPAN and are currently in discussions with them about when that will kick off. But I think, unfortunately, right now, there's still a lot of design work to be done.
So following through with that, what are the benefits for C-SPAN, in your opinion, obviously, of assigning the construction of this project to another shipyard?
I think the collaboration that we were looking at would be beneficial to them from a capacity standpoint. The idea would be that we build smaller modules that are either truckable or can be sent to them via rail, and it would help them, just given some of the other programs that they have ongoing right now. It could actually help them accelerate capacity on the Polar.
Is that the partnership you referenced in your opening comments?
I did not reference the C-SPAN partnership in our opening comments.
No, you didn't. It was more general.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. December 2021, a sessional paper, the Canadian Coast Guard lists commonalities between both polar vessels as a risk factor for this project. Are Heddle and C-SPAN in discussion with Davies about the polar icebreaker design?
Not that I know of. We're not in discussions with Davy, but I can't speak for C-SPAN on that subject.
Okay. And how are the delays, well, and this may be difficult for you, but I'll ask anyway, how are the delays in the negotiations of the Davies negotiations with the federal government affecting the design process for C-SPAN's polar icebreaker?
Again, I don't want to speak on behalf of C-SPAN. Certainly with two designs, there will be some complex logistical challenges that could be created, but I can't speak on behalf of C-SPAN in terms of how it will impact their design.
Thank you. We'll now go to Mrs. Vignola for 6 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. My questions go to Mr. Fulfaro. In 2017, with the collaboration of you proposed it in collaboration with Naval Group, you made a proposal to the government that was rejected, as you said a while ago. So who contacted you to make that proposal? Was it your initiative, or did someone contact you? I'm just trying to understand how it was done.
Was our initiative. We were not contacted regarding this because we were confident on that time with the French partner on the value for proposal. We were confident on the price. We were confident on the quality. We were confident that our proposal, considering the discussion we got with end user up to that time, was the best solution. So going out from the bidder, we decided to make an unsolicited proposal.
Merci. Thank you. During your proposal, or in your proposal, you proposed that Irving Shipyard should be the person to construct the frame. Why did you choose Irving Shipyards from amongst all Canadian shipbuilders?
Because Irving is capable. We know Irving. We know the skills, the facilities. We feel that we could be the right partner. We could be also the right partner, not only for the production, for the complete management of the program. I want to underline the fact that the key issue is not to produce the ship. The key issue is to manage the program, considering also the different phases of the program, including one of the most critical phases, that is the integration of the combat system function integration. So we were confident on that time that having a local shipyard, also considering our experience with other local shipyards in the world, this was possible.
Merci. Thank you. Quebec has already done business with Fricanteria for the F.A. Gautier, a ferry that links Matane-Bécomo or Matane-Côte-Boc in Quebec. Barely 3 weeks after it came into use, doorknobs were falling off, and the people of the North Shore and Lower St. Lawrence are surprised when a ship is in water for 3 weeks or 4 weeks in a row. So this is my question. Is it possible that the problems that were experienced in 2015 made Canada to be more open to your proposal?
It's a question to me, sorry.
Est-il possible que les débats
Is it possible that these problems experienced in Quebec with a ship that was bought directly from Fricantieri made Canada to put aside your proposal instead of considering your proposal?
In a general view, I can reply in a general view regarding this. We are open also to consider the Quebec capabilities. This is not a problem. I repeat again, the problem is not the local shipyard. The problem is not the local capabilities. The problem is how you manage the problem, considering the investment you have to do, considering the local supply chain you have to create. So Fincantieri is not having any problem, also considering Quebec. And also we can have a good experience in Canada, considering that we have VARD Canada, that is very important either for design and also for with VARD Electro for the system capabilities, and we have other important companies that can support us.
Thank you, Mr. Falfaro. The FO Gautier is always encountering all sorts of problems, ventilation, engine problems, and so on. Let me continue with Mr. Padu. Good afternoon. In 2020, you associated yourself with other shipyards to build some components of the polar icebreaker. Do you know what components this would be at this stage?
We have a general idea of what the components will be, but again, it's still too early in the design phase for us to have specific sections of the ship that have been dedicated or understood to be built at Heddle.
Okay.
Until the design is more mature, we won't have that understanding.
Donc, je comprends.
I understand that given that the design stage has not progressed a lot, for now there's no construction calendar, nor is there a delivery calendar.
I'm sorry, can you repeat one more time? Apologize.
I understand that since the design phase is not completed, the details are not yet completed, there's no construction calendar nor a delivery calendar or schedule. Am I correct?
From my understanding, there is a schedule in place to deliver the vessels before the 2030 imperative. However, based on the fact that design is still in a very immature phase, I don't have insight into when we'll start building modules and also the overall schedule for the project. C-SPAN would be the prime on that project in BC, and Davy would be the prime on the project, for example, in Quebec for the second polar icebreaker. Unfortunately, I don't have the details on the overall schedule yet.
Merci.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go to Mr. Johns for 6 minutes.
Thanks, witnesses, for being here. Mr. Padullo, can you speak a little bit about your, how your business has changed since, ship vessel repair, refit, and maintenance projects were organized under the National Shipbuilding Strategy in 2010, and maybe you can speak a bit about how the federal government could do better to help smaller shipyards in developing capacity for National Shipbuilding Strategy projects. I live in an area where there's a deep sea port, and they've had aspirations to build a floating dry dock on the west coast of Vancouver Island, and there hasn't been federal support for them to grow that vision and that dream. Despite on the Vancouver Island and the west coast, we've got a different capacity issue where we've got not enough capacity on floating dry docks, but maybe you could speak a bit about what the federal government could do.
Port Alberni that your writing's in.
That's it.
Awesome. It's a great part of the country.
It sure is.
Absolutely. So thank you for the question. I think the biggest issue that we're all facing, the smaller shipyards, is a continuity of work. And so, especially where we are on the Great Lakes and the St. Lawrence Seaway, the majority of our commercial customers want their work done within a 3-month period during the shutdown of the Seaway when they're not able to transport cargo. And so we have a massive ramp-up period followed by a massive bust period. And so the projects have all been green-lighted. We have these VLE programs. We have regular dry dockings and refits. If the government is able to strategically align those projects during the slow periods for the smaller shipyards, I think what it will do is create a continuity of work and intrinsically link commercial work and government work in Canada. And it'll allow shipyards to have a continuity of work and save our workers, essentially. When we have to lay people off, we're losing experience, we're losing skills. It's very difficult to get those people to come back into our shipyards. As you all know, it's a very tough labor market out there right now, and continuity, long-term employment is very important.
That's just going to be my next question, is actually how you're doing with facing, retaining staff right now. And I know it's a huge investment to train them, maintain them, and then keep them for the long term. How could the federal government support with that recruitment, training, and retention and efforts around that?
For me, it's, what I discussed in my opening remarks. I think it's important for Heddle and for Ontario to become a partner with Canada in the National Shipbuilding Strategy for these large VLE programs, these complex programs, as well as some of the vessels under 1,000 tons. If there can be a continuity of work, I don't think any of the yards are asking for handouts. I think what we would like to see is the actual work come into our yards so that we can earn a living and that we can keep our people employed.
Okay. Now, you've seen policies in the past. You talked about your building ferries or doing some work on ferries. There was a tariff, a 25% tariff. The Harper government got rid of that. Ferries were being built in Europe and around the world. That was a deterrent. Can you talk about policies that are really critical, that need to be put in place to support Canadian shipyards, Canadian workers? Maybe also speak about the multiplier effect, about the money that stays in our communities when we invest in Canadian shipyards.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking the question. I think it's a very important point. Ultimately, there's been Liberal and Conservative governments that have come up with different economic policies that have helped and have hurt the shipbuilding industry in Canada. So there was a 25% tariff on large ships, and that was removed at one point. Ferries is another one. If we talk about a national shipbuilding strategy where we're trying to support domestic production of ships, I think the federal government has done a lot at a federal level for the Coast Guard and the Navy to roll out programs. It would be great to see collaboration with the provinces as well. And so if you look at BC, if you look at Ontario, there are a number of ferries that have been built offshore recently. And I think working collaboratively with the provinces would be something that the feds could do to help us keep that work onshore and also create jobs in Canada. The multiplier effect that you talked about is real. I mean, for every dollar spent in a shipyard, there is a multiplier effect, whether you use 5, 6, or more in the surrounding communities. And so I think that that's a very important consideration that we need to factor in when we're talking about keeping work domestic.
We look around the world, we can see Norway, where they've utilized rural and remote communities. They have shipyards in towns that are 2,000 people for building resilience and economic diversity, but they also do it because of affordability. I mean, we're seeing skyrocketing real estate in all of the urban centers in Canada where the shipyards exist, which is going to make it even harder to find and retain workforce and attract workers. Can you speak about the critical need to expand into rural Canada and develop shipyards within a rural context?
I think it's a very important point. We have a shipyard in Thunder Bay, Ontario, which is it's a city, but it's in northern Ontario, and for all intents and purposes, there's the outlying region could be considered very rural. You're right. There is a lot of pressure on people that are trying to buy homes now in some of the major urban centers of our country, and some of the largest shipyards that are in our country are in those major urban centers. I think it's important that we start looking at some of these outports, whether they be on the East Coast or the West Coast or in the internal ocean, which is the Great Lakes, and start considering sending capacity and work to those places.
Yeah, I'd consider Thunder Bay rural for sure. Can you talk about what your number one frustration's been?
I think our number one frustration has been the fact that we own facilities that are the largest shipyards in Canada in terms of the actual space, in terms of our dry docking capacity, and that we haven't been able to support Canada in what is the largest procurement in the history of our country, the National Shipbuilding Strategy. I think it's important for us going forward if Ontario could be considered in a meaningful way to be part of the National Shipbuilding Strategy to help deliver ships on time and on budget. There's a ton of capacity within our 3 shipyards, and we would like to help the country deliver on the projects that we have currently.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Johns. And now we will go to Mr. Lobb for 5 minutes.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. And some days I just feel like I'm going around in circles with this topic, with this study. So my first question is to Mr. Folfari. my first question is, when you did how is it that you can put a bid in, and I'm giving you a compliment almost, you're putting in a bid at a fixed price, and I'm assuming a fixed period of time, and it's my understanding that the work would have been done at the Irving shipyards, but yet the very same people and other shipyards, the cost is maybe double or triple what you bid. How is it that you folks have the ability to produce these surface combatants at a fixed cost? And now I read that the cost of these 15 ships could be almost $70 billion. How is that you have that ability?
$70 billion, I don't know what is the reference to, because as I said before, I want to remark again, the FRAM frigate is having a different cost per unit. When I heard 30 billion for 15, 70 billion, we are out of mind. Okay, I want to be clear regarding this. The price in the market of the frame is very clear. You can check the contract for Egypt, for Indonesia, even the contract for US. So we are talking about another order of magnitude. So I don't talk about 70, 30. It's out of mind for 15 ships. Regarding the question, the fixed price and how.
So I'm clear though, sorry, I'm not saying that's what you're going to charge or what you're proposing to charge. I'm saying that's what the others were proposing to charge. Yours is way lower. That's what I'm saying. How can you do it?
It's a good point. I mean, we can stay a couple of hours regarding this, but I have a few seconds to reply to this question. I come back again on the fact that we are talking about a well-proven design. When I say well-proven design, it means that it is at sea, proven at sea. So we complete control the cost of this program. And when I say we complete control, I mean that we start, of course, from the evaluation coming from our experience. So we never proposed something related to Irwin shipyard cost. Okay, this is a matter that can be discussed. So also in our letter, we proposed the cost related to the production of the ship in Europe, even in Italy or in France, whatever. So we never spoke about the prices outside from that, even if through the experience we gain in the international market, the offer for Indonesia, for Egypt, for US, whatsoever, we know also the cost of having the production outside from our shipyards. So we can control even this cost. It's better to sit and discuss together with the shipyard and the local supply chain the different items, going through the points item by item and evaluate the cost impact. We can do this job because we act as a global player. We have experience in the transfer of technology. We have experience on how to control the cost outside our capabilities and our shipyard.
In your proposal, what percentage of the manufacturing would have been completed inside Canada? And I wouldn't hold you to the 5 decimal places, but just a rough estimate. Like 70%?
In our proposal, the idea was to, sorry, I hear my voice is coming back. Here, we proposed to have a proper transfer of technology in order to have all the production in Canada. This is the future idea of our proposal, not the value of the proposal we did, but the idea of our approach was to make a transfer of technology, to have the local production capability, to manage item by item with the local supply chain, the major equipment, let's say. So the value of the production is a certain percentage. The value of the local supplier chain depends on the availability, technical availability of the local supply chain. So we cannot estimate this. It's a matter of discussion through the end user, the local shipyard, and Fincantieri.
Thank you, Mr. Lobb. And we now go to Mr. Kazmierczuk for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And my questions are for Mr. Padullo, but I don't see him on the screen here, on my screen. So I'm just wanted to know whether he's still available.
He is still here. He's just the camera. So go ahead. He's here.
Oh,
And he
gotcha.
can hear
Okay,
you.
I didn't see him there on the screen. I thought maybe he had left for a second. Oh, terrific. Mr. Pajulo, I wanted to just start off by saying thank you to Hedl, to your team, for their support of humanitarian efforts in Ukraine as well, and the donations that you had made through the Red Cross and the Ukrainian Canada Foundation as well. So I just wanted to begin by saying thank you to your team for that tremendous support. According to the Government of Canada website, the NSS has provided or has awarded, since 2012, has awarded $20.87 billion worth of contracts, over $950 million to SMEs with less than 250 employees. And through the repair, retrofit, and maintenance program, 8,400 jobs have been either created or maintained annually under the NSS. And so I wanted to ask you, I know that obviously, as you mentioned, in 2021, Hedl received $12 million federal retrofit contract from the Canadian Coast Guard, again, to retrofit the Amundsen. I just wanted to ask you, again, just to build upon questions that were asked by my colleague, how many jobs did this create at Hedl, this project?
Mr. Chairman, thank you for the question, and I appreciate the comments earlier on. I think Ukraine is a very important issue right now, and we appreciate the recognition. With respect to the Amundsen, it created approximately 100 jobs. But again, I just want to reiterate the point. Once the CCGS Amundsen leaves, it's going to be during the summer, and that's our quiet period. And so those 100 jobs are at jeopardy. Those 100 individuals are responsible for delivering on a project that, as of right now, will be on time and on budget, which will be the first time that that's happened in the history of the VLE program. I do not want to see any of those individuals get laid off. And so again, I'd like to bring back the point that we need the federal government support to bring Ontario into the national shipbuilding strategy in a more meaningful way so that we can protect those jobs and continue to deliver projects on time and on budget.
Thank you very much for that. And again, just to build on my colleague's previous questions, is there anything else you'd like to put on record in terms of how the NSS has impacted your shipyard and smaller shipyards? Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Of course. Again, I mentioned this during my opening remarks. There have certainly been challenges in the NSS, but at the heart of it, I think it's one of the most important strategies and policies in the history of our country. We took over Port Weller in 2017 and Thunder Bay in 2016, and when we took those facilities over, they had once been the largest shipyards in Canada. There were 0 employees there. And in large part due to the NSS, although the work is sporadic, the NSS has really helped us bring those shipyards back to life and revitalize them. And so I want to thank the government for that first and foremost. I think there's lots of things that can be done to improve, but this was always an ambitious policy and always an ambitious strategy. And so I think that there's a lot of positives that are coming and will continue to come out of it. Thank you.
No, I appreciate your comments once again. I just feel that it's important to emphasize, again, the benefits that are accruing, for the Canadian economy and communities like yours and businesses like yours through the NSS. I wanted to switch gears just a little bit really quickly. Recently, I think last week, Davie announced that it's becoming a member of the Center for Innovation, Industrialization, and Inclusion of Alternative Energies and Green Metallurgy. And the purpose of this is basically to increase investments in sustainable marine technologies and work towards long-term, decarbonization. And so I just wanted to ask you, in your opinion, is there a need to examine the NSS through the lens of climate change? And do you believe that there are examples of initiatives in this industry that can help, improve the negative impact shipbuilding might have on climate change?
Thank you for the question. Mr. Chairman, I just want to say first and foremost that I think it is a very bold and welcome strategy that Davy has adopted. I think that they're leading the industry right now in terms of adopting those policies, and it is important, whether we talk about shipbuilding or aviation or car manufacturing, considering the environment and considering construction in the context of environmental sustainability is very important. If we look at the traditional methods of the production of ships and the productions and activities that occur in a shipyard, there's certainly many things that we can do to improve. And if you look at shipyards all across Canada right now, I believe that we're all trying to figure out how we can adopt the most environmentally sustainable methods, whether it be the activities that our people are engaging in sort of on the shop floor or on the ships themselves, or equipment that we're purchasing. So I do think that it's important, and I do commend Davy for being leaders in respect to that front.
Thank you, Mr. Padula, and I apologize for interrupting you. And if you have further information on that you would like to provide to the committee, please submit that to the clerk and we will distribute that. Appreciate that. We'll now go to Mrs. Vignola again for 2.5 minutes.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fulfaro. Right now, the Type 26 frigates that Irving will be building, well, design costs stand about $490 million. Do you find this cost reasonable for such a Type 26 frigates?
Sorry, can you translate in English, because I didn't receive the translation.
Right now, Irving Shipyard has sent Lockheed Martin, or given it the duty to design the Type 26 frigate. And it's expected to cost about $490 million. Do you think that this design cost for 5 frigates are reasonable or appropriate?
Generally, I don't talk about the proposal coming from others. I repeat again, the proposal of Fincantieri is very clear. The proposal of Fincantieri is covering all the issues. We are acting as a global player, including the transfer of technology. We have confidence of our cost. No, I cannot.
D'accord. Dans votre cas.
Very well. In your case, then, out of the $30 billion in your proposal, what percentage accounts for design cost?
The percentage is very low for the reason I explained before. We are talking about a well-proven. We are talking about a sea-proven ship. We have to tailor the ship to the combat system suite, to the end-user requirements, but we don't feel we have to change completely the design. The difference between a well-proven design and the sea-proven design, like the frame, and the paper design, is exactly the difference in the cost. So we expect to have reduced the cost for the design, but also, I have to say, reduced risk. The important point we underline in our letter is that we have not only reduced the cost for the design, but reduced the risk.
Thank you. I'm sorry my time is up, Mr. Fulfaro. I wish you a wonderful afternoon.
Hours to discuss about this in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Fulfaro. We'll now go to Mr. Johns for 2.5 minutes.
Thank you all again for being here. One thing I was thinking about, and you triggered it with one of your answers, you talked about your shipyard that not long ago had no workers at all. And it was once one of the most thriving shipyards in the country. Now, hearing that, can you talk about the importance of the national shipbuilding strategy, being an anchor, not just for today, but so that 20 years down the road, 30 years down the road, that we're not having an empty shipyard, that we're having a thriving shipyard, and how important it is that we do it right with the investments we're making right now. Can you speak about the critical need for us to ensure that we're doing really key investments strategically so we have a long-term thriving shipbuilding sector in Canada?
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the situation that we find ourselves in right now is one that's a historical challenge. We're looking at a fleet for the Canadian Coast Guard as well as a fleet for the Royal Canadian Navy that is past its service life. If we look at the commercial world, my background is in commercial shipping. I spent many years in the Netherlands and in Houston, Texas. Ships are supposed to last 25, maybe 30 years, and a lot of our vessels are quite older than that. And so what we need to do what I believe we need to do from a government perspective is ensure that we always have a constant build program ongoing so that as ships start to reach their end of life, there's a continuous renewal. At the same time, I mentioned it in my opening remarks, we can't forget the fact that Canada is a maritime nation, whether we like it or not, and that there is commercial ships that are operating on the Great Lakes, on the East Coast, on the West Coast, and internationally. And so I think that marrying government work and commercial work is extremely important. The shipyards that were shut down, we need a boost. We need to be resuscitated, and we have been through the National Shipbuilding Strategy, and we need to be here to support our commercial sector because for many years, the ships that we're currently repairing now in our shipyards in Ontario were going down to the United States, and we completely lost capabilities within those yards, and we're rebuilding that now. And the government work is critical to allow us to rebuild that capacity so that in the future we can not only build ships for the government, but we can build ships for the commercial sector and repair ships for the commercial sector and government.
Okay. How much time do I have, Mr. Chair?
You have 10 seconds.
Do you believe that also the end of life of those vessels is built in, like the ship breaking piece? Because right now we're sending a lot of our ships to Bangladesh, other countries. What can we do to ensure that that can help build also on the capacity piece?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's incredibly important that the ship recycling piece does become part of the larger picture. When we look at a vessel, there's an entire life cycle. There's design, there's construction, there's repair, maintenance, and then there's recycling. And in Canada, we have very strict environmental regulations. We have very strict regulations when it comes to health and safety. I think when ships are sent to other jurisdictions, those jurisdictions may not be held to the same standards that we hold our companies and our employees here. And so I think it's very important that we consider recycling as part of the entire life cycle and include it in a national shipbuilding strategy. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll go to Mr. McCauley for 5 minutes.
Thanks, gentlemen, for being with us today. Mr. Pedullo, you mentioned at one point you were up to 4,200 employees at the shipyards. What were you working on at that time that you had such a large amount compared to now? And what period was that, please?
Absolutely. So that would have been during the period of the 1980s when the St. Catharines Dry Dock had about 2,000 employees, and roughly during the 70s when the Thunder Bay Shipyard had about 2,000 employees as well. Throughout various courses of my period at Heddle, we've had up to 200 in Hamilton. So it was at peak periods in each one of those yards. And the reason why I drew attention to that was those shipyards are large, they're capable of handling that many employees, and some of the largest icebreakers that are currently operating within the Coast Guard's fleet, like the de Grozier, were built at Port Weller, for example.
Okay. And what projects do you see your company focusing on? I mentioned you can't join the NSS because then you're excluded from 1,000-ton and above. Do you see it as a niche? Do you see it as a partner of C-SPAN and Davy for the polar icebreaker? Do you see, look for a change with NSS to force, well, not force, but to encourage, I guess, the main players to subcontract? Of course, there was a story a couple of years ago about Irving outsourcing a lot of the value-add business to European companies for the AOPS. Where do you see a role for your company?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ultimately, I see a role for our company as partnering with Canada in the NSS, and I understand the rules within the NSS. Partners are not allowed to build vessels under 1,000 tons. I see us playing in that space, so building vessels under 1,000 gross registered tons for Canada, as well as...
Can I interrupt you quickly?
Of course.
For the 1,000 and below, have anything been announced? There have been a lot of ships announced for C-SPAN and for Davy for Coast Guard. Are any of them about the 1,000, or what traditionally would be below 1,000 tons that you work on?
There have been multiple programs that have been announced. So the nearshore fisheries vessel is one of them, and it's a one-off. There's 2 navigation to AIDS vessels, and then there's 6 midshore multi-mission vessels. These are all the programs that we're looking at when we talk about the vessels under 1,000 tons. And I think that within the last few years, the rules of the National Shipbuilding strategy have shifted. Mainly if Davie becomes a third shipyard, that would be a large departure from the original rules of the program. And so I think that there is an opportunity for us to become a partner of Canada, but to focus on vessels under 1,000 tons and also to focus on the complex VLE programs.
Okay. How many, what is your ability to scale up should you get a contract for one of those ships? We know there's a labor shortage, there's a skill shortage. Would it be focused on one certain area? You mentioned you have several docks. Where would it go? And where will you find the people?
Thank you. It's a good question. So I think our biggest issue right now is, we're in the most populated center of the country in southern Ontario. We had to ramp up several years ago to take on a commercial project to replace 250,000 pounds of steel after they ran aground, and we were able to bring 300 people on very quickly. Our issue has always been the continuity of work and being able to keep people and attract people. The proposition of being hired for 3 months and then being laid off is not a good one, especially in this labor market when there's a ton of different opportunities. But at the same time, the jobs in the shipyard are high paying. And so if we can create a continuity of work, then I think that we can solve a lot of the labor issues that we've seen during the boom and bust cycles. Hope that answers your question.
Great. Just one last question. Partnering with Davie, C-SPAN, Irving, how do you do so? How does the government under NSS or any other form encourage such subcontracting partnership without basically sticking it to the taxpayer? It's one thing to say, hey, great, we're building everything in Canada, but if we're doing it at, Irving's doing it 8 times the going rate, that's not great value for taxpayers. How do we move forward or address something like that?
It's a great question. I don't want to speak on behalf of Irving or C-SPAN or Davie. I think that there's challenges on both sides, be it with the shipyards, but also be it with the government. Again, this was a monumental undertaking in terms of trying to rebuild an industry. I know from our perspective, again, I don't mean to keep on bringing the Edmundson back up, but if we deliver it, and we're on course to deliver it on time, it'll be the first on-time and on-budget project. I think creating a framework to bring other yards into the national shipbuilding strategy, to bring more capacity into the national shipbuilding strategy, will help alleviate some of the constraints that are currently there and potentially bring prices down.
Okay. Perfect timing. Thank you.
Perfect timing. Thank you. And now we'll go to our final questioner and Mr. Baines for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to our witnesses for joining us today. My questions are coming from Richmond, British Columbia, and this study is very important to us and our marine sector on the West Coast. Richmond is also the home of the largest commercial fishing harbor in all of Canada, so much of what you said is very interesting to me. I think you answered a little bit about the sustainability of shipbuilding, and you went into length there. What should we do beyond the national strategy? I think you've answered some of those things. I'm just wondering a little bit about recruiting, retaining staff. What can we as a government do to support the recruitment, retention efforts, maybe partnerships, collaborations with our academic institutions? You may know we have British Columbia Institute of Technology, one of the best world-class trade schools that we have. Just your thoughts on that, on what, if there's any partnerships with the academic institutions and the industry, and how we can help support that.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chairman. I would echo that BC has some great educational institutions. I actually went to school there. It was a great time. Right now at HEDO, we're embarking on a program where we're partnering with trades colleges that are in the areas where we have shipyards. So Mohawk College in Hamilton, Confederation College in Thunder Bay, and Niagara College in the Niagara region in St. Catharines. And what we're doing is we're creating a standard curriculum for ship repair and ship construction. We need to get young people attracted to this industry. I think that there's some incredible things that can be done, and it's a great industry, and it's one that you can have a career should we find stability within all the different shipyards in Canada. So again, I'd just like to echo that I think if the federal government can do anything, it's perhaps mobilize some of the trades colleges across the country to come up with a consistent curriculum, but at the same time ensure that the shipyards that are offering employment have work. So for example, ensure that Davie in Quebec has multi-generations worth of work. Ensure that C-SPAN and other shipyards like in Port Alberni have work. I think that is the single greatest thing that the federal government could do is roll out the programs that have already been green-lighted and funded.
Thank you. And with the maintenance of ships, what point do you think they should need to be completely replaced? Like, what's the lifespan of many of these?
That's a very difficult question. There's many different variables. Again, rule of thumb within the commercial sector is 25 to 30 years, but they're built to last 25, 30 years. If I look at some of the Coast Guard ships that we've repaired that are into the 40, 50, and one almost 60 years old, I think that you're almost at that point spending money to keep a ship alive, and you're probably throwing good money after bad at that point. And so it's extremely important that we start bringing new ships, into operation so that we can start recycling in an environmentally and sustainable way the vessels that are in the current fleets.
And is that when you look at the recycling and the amount of repair, the amount of money going into the repairs, is it better to bring new ships into circulation rather than doing even the repairs?
I think it all depends on the circumstance. The large complex VLEs are extremely complex. And so I think if you look at the Edmondson that we currently have in the shipyard right now, it requires a significant project management team. There's a huge team in place. The workers that we have are incredibly skilled. And so if the government hopes to continue on with major VLE programs, they're really going to need to look at shipyards that are capable of taking on that work so that they don't hurt smaller shipyards that are starving for work, take on a large complex project, and then are unable to deliver. It hurts the shipyard, but it also hurts Canada, and it hurts the Coast Guard, it hurts the Navy. And so I think that it's incumbent upon Canada to look at certain shipyards that are capable and large enough to take on the complex VLEs. Nothing's impossible. It's just a matter of being able to go to the yards that are capable of doing it.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, how much time?
You have 14 seconds.
Well, I will allow someone else to take some of that time.
Thank you for yielding the time back to me. Appreciate that. So with that said, we come to the end of our questions, and I would like to thank Mr. Padullo for being here in person, and also to Mr. Fofaro for you being with us. We realize that it's closing in on 11 o'clock your time back home, and we appreciate you taking the time to answer our questions and provide clarification to the committee. So thank you very much.
If I have, sorry, if I have 20 seconds of your time before
Okay, we'll give you 20 seconds.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I want to convey a message from Fincantieri to you all. We discussed today about a very complex program like the frigate programs. As we said from Fincantieri side, in order to achieve the target, to be on time within the budget in quality, you need three major issues. You need for sure a local capabilities, a local shipyard, but you need also a strategic partner that is acting as a prime contractor from the mission profile analysis up to end of life in order to reduce the risk in the proper way in the different phases. Fincantieri can be this strategic partner because it's a global player and can act with a proper transfer of technology in order to maintain the program within the target of the price without going over any type of evaluation of a real frigate that is with value completely different from what you are having in your program. And also finally, you need a very solid design in order to manage properly the program. This is the message I want to convey to you all, hoping that we can have a chance to discuss in more detail about this. Thank you very much.
And thank you once again, and thank you all. And as I mentioned throughout, if there is something further that either of you would like to submit to the committee, please feel free to do that, submit that to the clerk, and we will distribute that to everybody. So with that said, the public portion of our meeting is now complete, and we're about to go into in-camera portion of our meeting. I'm going to suspend the meeting in a second, and when that happens, the technical staff will end this part of the meeting in Zoom. As I've indicated, and as you're aware, those that of us on the that have received the Zoom application, you'll have to log off and then come back in with the new number and the new passcode that was sent to you by the clerk. With that said, I now declare the meeting suspended.